Welcome to your deep dive on Business Central Pages. We got this YouTube video tutorial someone sent in aimed at technical consultants.
Okay.
And it's a dense one, I gotta say.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to unpack it so you can walk away feeling like a Business Central page expert.
Right.
Are you ready to dive in with me?
Absolutely. Let's decode this video and really break down pages.
Okay.
You know, from their structure and types to more advanced concepts like triggers and that kind of tricky concept of inheritance in Business Central.
Perfect. Now, the video starts by talking about how pages are the interactive interface for users.
Right.
It uses this analogy of a table being like a database and their page being the window into that data.
Okay.
But is that really the best way to think about it for someone who's going to be building and customizing these things?
Well, the analogy works.
Yeah.
But for a technical consultant, it's important to go a bit deeper.
Okay.
A page isn't just a window. It's the entire control panel for how users interact with Business Central.
Right.
Think about every button click, every field they fill out.
Right.
It's all orchestrated through the page. And for a consultant, that means understanding pages is crucial to creating efficient and user-friendly systems for their clients.
Okay, so it's about more than just displaying data. It's about creating a whole experience.
Right.
The video then jumps into all the components of a page. Controls, properties, actions, triggers, and even AL code.
Yeah.
Can we break those down a bit?
Sure.
For someone who's maybe new to Business Central development, where do they even start?
It can definitely feel overwhelming at first, but let's break it down.
Okay.
Imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
You have the foundation, the walls, the roof, all the different rooms.
Okay.
Think of the controls on a page.
Yeah.
Like those rooms. You have text boxes, drop-down lists, buttons, all those visual elements a user interacts with, properties, are then like the paint color or furniture you choose for each room, defining how they look and behave.
Okay, I'm getting that.
Okay.
So controls are the structure, and properties are the customization.
Yeah, you got it.
What about those actions?
Right.
The video mentions those too.
Actions are like the doors and windows of your house. Okay. They allow users to move around and do things within the system. Okay. Want to create a new customer record? That's an action. Need to run a report? That's another action.
Got it.
These are the functions that give users the power to actually use the system.
That's a helpful way to visualize it. Yeah. So we've got controls as the structure, properties for looks and behavior, and actions for functionality.
Right.
Now, the video also mentions triggers.
Yes.
Are those related to actions?
They are, but in a more reactive way.
Okay.
Think of triggers.
Yeah.
Like setting up motion sensor lights in your house.
Okay.
When a specific event happens, like someone walking by, the light automatically turns on. In Business Central, triggers work similarly.
Okay.
For example, you can set a trigger to display a warning message. If a user tries to delete a customer with open invoices, it adds a layer of automation and control to the system.
Ah, so triggers are like safeguards or automated responses built into the page.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then there's AL code. I know that's the programming language for Business Central, but where does that fit into all of this?
AL code is the mortar that holds everything together. Okay. It defines how all those controls, properties, actions, and triggers actually work. Okay. It's the brains behind the operation, dictating the logic and functionality of the entire page. If you're building complex customizations, understanding AL code is essential.
Got it. So AL code is the underlying language that makes all the magic happen.
Exactly.
The video then jumps into talking about different types of pages.
Okay.
Listing 11 in total.
Oh, wow.
Card, list, card part, list part, headline part, document, role center, worksheet, confirmation dialog, standard dialog, list plus, and navigate.
Yeah.
Who? Do we really need to know all of those?
Well, you don't need to memorize all 11 right now.
Okay.
The key takeaway is that Business Central offers different page types for different purposes.
Okay.
Some, like card and list pages, are the bread and butter of the system.
Okay.
Others, like confirmation dialogues, are more specialized.
Okay.
Understanding the different types helps you know which tool to use for which job.
Okay, so different pages for different tasks.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right.
The video focuses on card and list pages as the most common ones.
Right.
What's the main difference between those two?
Think about how you might view customer data.
Okay.
If you want to see detailed information about a single customer, their address, contact info, order history, you'd use a card page.
Okay.
It's like a focused snapshot of one record.
Okay.
But if you want to see a list of all your customers at a glance, maybe to compare sales figures or identify trends, you'd use a list page.
Okay.
Gives you an overview of multiple records in a table format.
So card page for a single record, list page for multiple records. Pretty straightforward. Now, the video also dives into document pages.
Yeah.
And those seem a bit more complex.
They are.
Yeah.
But think of them as the workhorses for handling business transactions.
Okay.
Imagine a sales order.
Okay.
You have header information.
Okay.
Like the customer name and order date, which is displayed like a card.
Okay.
Then you have lines for each item being ordered, which appear in a list format.
Okay.
That entire structure.
Yeah.
The header and the lines make up a document page.
Okay.
What makes them unique is that they're connected to multiple tables.
Oh.
Not just one.
Okay.
Making them more complex to design and manage.
Ah, so it's like a card page with a built-in list for line items.
Exactly.
Interesting. The video uses the example of a sales order.
Right.
But are there other types of documents in Business Central?
Absolutely. Think about purchase orders, invoices, credit memos.
Right.
All of those are documents.
Okay.
And because they often involve multiple steps and approvals, document pages need to be designed carefully to ensure data integrity and smooth workflows.
Got it.
For a consultant, that means understanding document pages is crucial for optimizing business processes.
This is already making me rethink how I approach Business Central. The video then briefly mentions the Role Center, describing it as the central hub of the user experience.
What's so special about the Role Center?
Think of the Role Center as the user's personalized Business Central dashboard. It's the first thing they see when they log in, and it gives them a snapshot of the information they need to do their job effectively.
Right.
Salespeople might see key sales metrics and open opportunities, while warehouse managers might see inventory levels and pending shipments.
So it's not just a static page.
Right.
It's tailored to each user's role and responsibilities.
Exactly. And what's really powerful is that the Role Center is highly customizable. Users can add or remove different sections charts and even integrate data from external sources.
Wow.
It's all about empowering them to create a workspace that fits their individual needs.
Wow, that's a level of personalization I hadn't even considered. It seems like the Role Center can be a powerful tool for consultants to really tailor
the Business Central experience to their clients' workflows.
Now
the video moves on to the page designer. And it sounds like this is where the real customization magic happens.
It is. The page designer is a visual interface that allows you to modify the layout and appearance of pages without having to write a ton of AL code. You can drag and drop elements, adjust their size and positioning, and even preview how the page will look on different devices, like desktops, tablets, or mobile phones.
So it's like a user-friendly way to customize those controls and properties we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Think of it like using a design program to create a web page. You have a visual canvas where you can arrange elements and style them to create the look and feel you want.
That sounds way less intimidating than writing code from scratch. The video then jumps into two pretty advanced concepts, triggers and inheritance. We talked about triggers earlier as those automated responses. Can you give me an example of how a consultant might use them to solve a real business problem for a client?
Let's say you're working with a client who has a strict policy about giving discounts. They only want salespeople to offer discounts above a certain threshold if they have manager approval. You could use a trigger on the sales order page to automatically check the discount amount. And either block the order or send it for approval based on the client's rules.
So triggers can enforce business rules and automate workflows.
Exactly.
That's a great example. Now, what about inheritance?
The
video mentions it's a core principle in object-oriented programming. But Business Central doesn't fully embrace that, right?
That's right. Business Central uses a hybrid approach to inheritance. It's not as comprehensive as you might see in other languages. But it does allow you to inherit certain properties. Especially those related to data validation and formatting. For example, you could define a standard format for customer addresses in a parent page. And any child pages that inherit from it would automatically use that same format.
So it's like setting a template that child pages can follow.
Exactly.
Ensuring consistency across the system.
This saves a lot of time and effort. And it helps maintain a unified design and behavior across different pages.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We've gone from understanding the basic concept of a page to diving into controls, properties, actions, triggers, and even inheritance.
It's a lot.
My head is spinning, but in a good way.
That's great.
It is.
The key takeaway is that Business Central pages are incredibly powerful tools for building custom solutions. Understanding the different components and how they work together gives you the foundation to create anything. From simple data entry forms to complex business process workflows.
I'm starting to see the possibilities. But before we get too carried away, let's take a break and come back for part 2.
Sounds good.
Where we'll dive deeper into those controls and how to use them to build a page from the ground up.
Awesome.
We'll see you back here soon. For more Business Central page insights.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Business Central pages. In the last part, we laid the groundwork. Talking about pages as the control panels for user interaction, breaking down those key building blocks like controls, properties, and actions. Now I'm ready to get my hands dirty and see how all of this actually comes together on a page.
That's a great segue. Because the video jumps right into the specifics of building a page using AL code, starting with those structural elements we call containers.
The video emphasizes that every page starts with a container. And I remember it showing a code snippet where they named a container general, which seemed pretty basic.
It might seem basic, but general often represents the main content area of a page. It's where you typically place the core fields and information users interact with most frequently. Now, the naming convention can vary depending on the specific purpose of the container and the page's overall structure. You might have other containers named shipping, invoicing, or even something more specific to your client's industry, like patient information for a healthcare solution.
So it's all about creating logical groupings within the page.
Exactly.
The video also shows how you can nest containers within other containers, which seems a bit like those Russian nesting dolls.
Exactly. That nesting structure is crucial for building well-organized and visually appealing pages. Think of it like organizing files on your computer. You have folders within folders to create a hierarchy and make it easier to find what you need. Containers in Business Central work similarly.
Got it.
Allowing you to group related information and create a logical flow for the user.
So containers are the big picture, the overall framework. What about those groups, fields, and parts the video mentions? Where do those fit into the puzzle?
Imagine you have a container called customer information. Within that container, you might create groups to separate different types of data. You could have a contact details group for the customer's name, address, and phone number. And then another group called financial details for their credit limit and payment terms.
Got it.
It's all about visually breaking down information into digestible chunks.
So groups are like subcontainers within the main container, adding another level of organization.
Exactly.
What about fields? Those seem pretty important.
Fields are the heart of data entry and display. Think of those text boxes. Drop-down lists, date fields, and check boxes. Those are all fields.
Got it.
And the way they're defined in AL code determines how they appear and behave on the page.
And they're directly linked to the underlying data structure, right? So if you have a field for customer name on the page, it's pulling that information from the customer table in the database.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is that you can use AL code to control how that data is displayed and validated. You can set them rules to ensure data consistency, like requiring a valid email format or preventing users from entering negative values in a quantity field.
That's a great example of how those validation rules we talked about earlier can be implemented using AL code. Now, what about those parts the video mentions?
Okay.
They seem a bit mysterious.
Parts are like specialized modules you can insert into your page.
Okay.
Think of them like pre-built components that add specific functionality.
Okay.
You could use parts to embed an entire page within another page.
Okay.
Creating what's essentially a subpage.
So like a mini page within the main page?
Precisely.
Yeah.
This is useful if you have a complex process that needs to be broken down into smaller steps.
Okay.
For example, you might have a part for entering shipping details within a sales order page.
Okay, so parts are like modular building blocks that add extra functionality.
Exactly.
The video also mentions parts in relation to those fact boxes we talked about earlier.
Right. You can use parts to display fact boxes on your page.
Okay.
Fact boxes are those little snippets of information that provide context or related data.
Okay.
For example, on a customer card page, you might have a fact box showing the customer's recent orders or their outstanding balance.
It's like having those quick reference notes right there on the page.
Yeah.
So we've got containers as the foundation, groups for organization, fields for adding those extra layers of functionality. It's starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Now, does the video actually show
It does.
what a page looks like once you've built it with all these elements?
It shows a simple page for the employee table with a general container and a few fields like employee code, name, and salary.
Okay.
It demonstrates how the code translates into a visual interface where you can input and view data.
I bet it's really satisfying to see those lines of code come to life as a functioning page.
It is.
Does this also show any of those triggers in action?
It does. The video shows a simple trigger that displays a data inserted message after you add a new employee record. It's a small touch, but it provides valuable feedback to the user, confirming that their action was successful.
That's a great example of how triggers can enhance the user experience with those little confirmations and automations. Now, after diving into building the page with containers and fields, the video switches gears and talks about grouping elements. Why is grouping so important?
Grouping is all about visual clarity and user friendliness. Think about reading a long block of text versus text broken down into paragraphs with headings. The structured text is much easier to scan and understand. Grouping elements on a Business Central page works similarly.
Got it.
It helps users quickly find the information they need and navigate the page more efficiently.
So it's like using visual cues to guide the user through the page. The video shows an example where they create a general group and an other information group within that main content area container. What's the logic behind that grouping?
It's all about creating logical categories. In the example they put basic employee information like employee code, name, and salary in the general group. Then they put less frequently used details like date of joining and city in the other information group.
Got it.
It's a way to prioritize information and make the page less cluttered.
That makes sense. It's like putting the most important things front and center. Now, after talking about groups, the video shifts to actions. We talked about those earlier as the functions users can perform. But does the video go into more detail?
It does. It shows a very simple example of creating a test action that displays a data-saved message when clicked. The point is to illustrate that actions are essentially code blocks that execute. When a user interacts with a specific element, like clicking a button.
So it's a way to add custom functionality beyond just displaying and entering data.
Exactly.
But the video emphasizes that actions can be much more complex than just displaying a message.
Absolutely. You can use AL code to create actions that perform a wide range of tasks. From validating data and updating records to triggering external processes and integrating with other systems.
That's where things can get really powerful, especially for consultants who are building tailored solutions for their clients. Now, before we wrap up this part, the video touches on the difference between card pages and list pages.
Right.
We discussed those earlier. But does it show how to actually create them?
It does. And what's interesting is that it shows how you can easily switch between a card page and a list page by modifying a single property in the code. It highlights how adaptable Business Central pages can be, allowing you to present data in different formats to suit different purposes.
That's a great point. It seems like understanding those different page types and how they're structured in AL code gives you a lot of flexibility in designing solutions.
It does.
So we've gone from containers and groups to fields, parts, and actions. My head is swimming with all these building blocks.
It's a lot to take in, but now you have a solid grasp of how those elements work together to create the user interface in Business Central. And in the next part, we'll take it even further by exploring those advanced concepts of triggers and inheritance in more detail.
I'm ready for the challenge. We'll be back soon for the final part of our deep dive into Business Central pages. Welcome back. We've spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive really getting into the nuts and bolts of Business Central pages. From containers and fields to those specialized parts, it's like we've been taking a page apart piece by piece. Now I'm ready to see how we put it all back together and really make it sing.
That's the perfect way to think about it, because in this final part, we're diving into the tools that give you the power to add those extra layers of logic and sophistication to your Business Central pages, triggers and inheritance.
Let's start with triggers. I remember we talked about them earlier as those automated responses to events. But the video goes beyond the basics, really emphasizing the different types of triggers and how to use them strategically. I have to admit, the sheer number of triggers mentioned was a bit overwhelming.
It's a lot.
Do we really need to know all of them?
You don't need to memorize every single trigger. The important thing is to grasp the concept and understand the power they offer. Think of triggers as event listeners that are constantly monitoring the page for specific actions. When the trigger condition is met, it executes the code you've defined. It's like setting up a series of if this, then that rules within the page.
So it's about identifying the key events you want to respond to and then writing the code that dictates what happens. The video uses that on-insert trigger as an example, showing how to display a confirmation message after a new record is added. But that seems pretty basic. What are some other ways a consultant might use triggers in real-world scenarios?
The possibilities are practically endless. Imagine you're working with a client who has a complex approval process for sales orders. You could use triggers to automatically route the order to different approvers based on the order amount or the customer's credit limit. Or you could set up a trigger to check inventory levels before an order is processed and alert the user if there's not enough stock on hand.
Wow, those are some powerful examples. It's like you're building intelligent automation directly into the page. The video also shows some of the AL code for defining a trigger within a page object, which can seem a bit intimidating.
It can be a little tricky.
Is there anything a consultant should keep in mind when writing trigger code?
It's important to remember that triggers should be focused and efficient. Avoid writing complex business logic directly within a trigger. Think of it like keeping your kitchen pantry organized. You wouldn't cram everything into one giant container, would you? You'd use smaller containers and labels to keep things tidy and easy to find. Keep your trigger code concise and focused on the specific event it's handling. And you'll be well on your way to creating efficient and maintainable solutions.
Now let's shift gears and talk about inheritance. The video mentions that Business Central uses a kind of partial inheritance. What does that even mean?
Well, it's not as comprehensive as you might see in a true object-oriented programming language. But it still offers a powerful way to reuse code and ensure consistency across your pages. Think of it like creating a blueprint for a house. You can define the basic layout and features in the blueprint and then create variations based on that same foundation.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
In Business Central, you can define properties and behaviors in a parent page.
Yeah.
And those characteristics are automatically passed down to any child pages that inherit from it.
Right.
So you're essentially creating a template that child pages can follow.
Right.
But the video emphasizes that Business Central inheritance is mainly focused on data validation and formatting properties. Why is that?
It boils down to efficiency and maintainability.
Okay.
Imagine you have a standard set of rules for how customer addresses should be formatted or how order numbers should be generated.
Okay.
Instead of recreating those rules on every page, you can define them once in a parent page.
Yeah.
And let inheritance do the work.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It not only saves time, but also ensures consistency across the system.
Right.
If you need to update a validation rule, you only have to change it in one place.
Right.
And all the child pages will automatically inherit the update.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to streamline development.
Yeah.
And reduce the risk of errors.
Right.
But inheritance in Business Central goes beyond just validation and formatting.
Okay.
You can also inherit properties related to the page layout, the controls used, and even the actions available to the user.
So you could create a base page with a standard set of buttons and actions.
Right. And then create specialized child pages that inherit those elements, but add their own unique features.
Precisely. This modular approach is a cornerstone of efficient Business Central development by understanding how to leverage inheritance effectively. You can build scalable and maintainable solutions that are tailored to your client's needs.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. It feels like we've gone from 0 to 60 with Business Central pages.
I know, right? It's been a journey.
It has.
We started with the fundamental concept of a page as the interface between users and data.
Yeah.
Then we broke down those building blocks, containers, groups, fields, parts, and actions. And finally, we explored those powerful tools of triggers and inheritance that take your page development to the next level.
You know, when we started this deep dive, I felt like a bit of a tourist in the world of Business Central pages, just looking around and admiring the scenery. Right.
Now I feel like I'm starting to understand the language.
Oh, that's great.
The culture. And the way things work.
That's the perfect way to put it.
It is.
And the beauty of it is that this is just the beginning.
Right.
The more you explore Business Central pages, the more you'll discover the incredible flexibility and power they offer.
Right.
With a little creativity and AL coding expertise, you can build practically anything you can imagine.
I'm already starting to brainstorm ideas.
That's awesome.
But before we get carried away, let's wrap up this deep dive with a final thought for our listeners.
Sounds good.
What's one key takeaway they should walk away with?
Think about the specific tasks and processes your clients perform every day. Are there any areas where a custom page could streamline their workflow, improve efficiency, or enhance the user experience? Maybe it's a specialized reporting dashboard or a page that automates a multi-step approval process. The possibilities are truly endless.
Well, on that note, this has been another deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
I have learned so much.
Good. I'm glad.
And I hope our listeners have too.
Me too.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of Business Central.
Sounds good.